Pope Francis kicks off his three-nation African tour. Somalia's foreign affairs minister on extremism, al-Shabaab, and the country's upcoming elections. And singer Adele makes history with 25. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin in East Africa, where Pope Francis arrived in Kenyan capital Nairobi on Wednesday on a historic visit to the continent that will seek to heal divisions between Christians and Muslims and address a fast-growing Catholic congregation. On his first tour of Africa, Pope Francis landed under sunny skies and was met by the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as a crowd of fans who sang and cheered. As part of the tour, Pope Francis is also scheduled to visit Uganda and the Central African Republic. The trip has been fraught with security concerns, and the Pope is expected to spend about 2 days in each country and will visit only the capital cities. Both Kenya and Uganda have been targets of Islamic militant attacks, and part of the pontiff's trip will be focused on bridging Christian-Muslim fault lines. Well, for the latest on Pope Francis' visit, Jill Craig, VOA East Africa correspondent, joins me live via Skype from Nairobi. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Vincent.
Yeah, first, how can you describe the mood in Nairobi today?
Absolutely joyful. Kenyans are very, very excited that Pope Francis has chosen their country for the first stop on his first Africa tour. So along the route that went from the airport to State House, where the Pope was headed after he landed, I would say thousands of people lined up, cheering, singing, as you mentioned, just very excited to see the pontiff. Even if they aren't Catholic necessarily, they were very excited that he chose Kenya, and they see that as significant.
Now, we mentioned that one of the focus of the Pope's visit to these countries is to bridge the fault lines between Muslims and Christians. What are some of the events that have been planned to achieve this objective?
That's a great question, Vincent. The biggest event that's been planned to address those issues, he's having a meeting with interreligious leaders tomorrow, and I believe that there will be Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, and Protestants at that meeting, in addition to some Catholic officials. So I think that he's trying to make a very cognizant effort to bridge those divides. And, you know, today when I was talking to people along that parade route, or shall we say just the route that the Pope was taking, people, you know, they expressed sort of happiness that he was coming to address those things, because those are issues that Kenya has seen many times, and also, you know, we've even seen, you know, obviously in the last few weeks, even more terrorist attacks elsewhere. So it's definitely a very pertinent issue, and it's one that Kenyans are excited for him to address. And I can also say that I spoke with some Muslims today along the parade route, and, you know, even the Muslims I spoke with said, you know, we think it's fantastic that the Pope has chosen Kenya. So I just think all in all, Kenyans are very excited about this.
Now, we know that as in every other place where the Pope goes, citizens also want him to address other issues very specific to their country. What are people telling you they would like to hear the Pope tell the leaders of Kenya?
Well, you know, it's funny. That's another good question, Vincent. Several of the people we spoke to today said that they were so proud of the way that the Pope conducts himself. They like his message of humility. And, you know, several today, and, you know, also in the Kangemi slum where I was a few days ago, you know, people just keep saying that they hope that their political leaders can take some example from the Pope and perhaps maybe tone down their own lifestyles a bit more and perhaps practice humility in their own lifestyles. So I think that on a very practical level, people are looking forward to that particular message. And I can say that because the Pope has continued to address poverty in both, you know, obviously in the tour that he took to the United States, and then subsequently, and in this tour, he's obviously going to be talking about poverty and helping the underprivileged, which will culminate in the event that he does in the Kangemi slum, which is one of the slums in Nairobi. I just think that all of these issues, or all of these actions, you know, kind of speak louder than words for the Pope. And I think that people recognize that and they appreciate it very much.
And we know that he will pay a visit to the Kangemi slums. What are the people saying there about that particular visit to that area?
Yeah, they're very excited. And, to be very honest with you, Vincent, people in Kangemi are more concerned with the practical effects of the Pope's visit. So when you ask people, how do you think the Pope is doing? Are you excited about the Pope coming? The answer is yes, but it's because the roads have been paved. It's because their security has been improved. So, it's not necessarily the traditional answer that you would expect from folks. But, regardless, they're very excited about the Pope coming for one reason or the other.
Jill, excellent reporting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent.
Look forward to talking to you in the morning again, tomorrow morning. Jill Craig, VOA East Africa correspondent, reporting live via Skype from Nairobi. Now, there are more than 6,500 foreign-born Catholic priests in the United States, one church of the total number of clergy. Now, many are from Africa, and many U.S. Catholic churches and priests have ties to the continent. VOA's Caroline Presutti tells us how a Kenyan priest got to the U.S. and why.
In the tiny community of Hickory, Maryland, Father Isaac Makovo conducts weekday Mass.
All glory and honor is yours, forever and ever.
Amen. The Mass is much more solemn than the one in his hometown of Mombasa, Kenya, where Mass is truly celebrated.
I would say back at home, sometimes people make fun of it. They call it like the dancing church.
Churches like his in Kenya have written new songs in preparation for Pope Francis' visit. Almost 1 million people are expected at the Mass in Nairobi.
The expectations are just very high. The spirits are very high. The body of Christ.
Amen. And so it's ironic that Father Isaac will be here during that time as one of the more than 1,000 African priests who work in the United States. And here's why. Over the last 50 years, U.S. Catholics increased, while the number of priests dropped by 1/3. Meantime, in Africa, the number of priests more than doubled. So the United States started recruiting its clergy. Evening prayer at the National Seminary at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. Father Philip Brown is its rector. Instead of recruiting, his religious order travels to Zambia to develop and keep the church there.
I don't think that it's wrong to be attracting these men, but I also think we have to be very, very conscious, intentional about not exploiting their situation or their need.
Heal the afflicted and make them all.
To avoid this, the Conference of Catholic Bishops released a document detailing policy and procedures for welcoming foreign-born priests.
Hello.
Father Isaac chats daily with his family in Kenya.
To be honest with you, sometimes I miss them a lot. Blessed be his holy name.
He says he has no plans to retire in the United States. He will return home to Africa, where everything is a little more familiar. In Hickory, Maryland, Caroline Presutti, VOA News.
Well, Tunisian President Beji Sedi Essebsi held an emergency meeting Wednesday with his Security Council a day after an explosion killed at least 12 people in the country's capital. Essebsi went on national television and declared a 30-day state of emergency in Tunisia.
Following the discussion with the Parliament Speaker and with the Prime Minister, I declare a state of emergency for 30 days according to the law. And secondly, I will impose a curfew for Greater Tunis starting from 9 p.m. tonight until 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. And I will inform you that the National Security Council will meet tomorrow here in Carthage Castle to make the necessary decisions to deal with and confront this situation.
Well, Essebsi said Tunisia is at war against terrorism and urged international cooperation against extremists who have staged several deadly attacks in recent weeks. The blast hit a bus carrying members of the country's elite presidential guard in the center of Tunis. Security and presidential sources said that it was not immediately clear whether the explosion involved a bomb or an explosive fired at the bus. The blast came 10 days after authorities increased security levels in the capital and deployed security forces in unusually high numbers. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the UN Security Council both condemned the attack and expressed support for Tunisia. Now turning to Mali and the terrorist attack earlier this week on an upscale Bamako hotel that killed 21 people. Experts fear that heightened security risks could frighten off foreign investors and tourists as Mali tries to restart its sputtering economy. Emily Eob reports from Bamako.
In the busy street of Mali's capital city, Bamako, the immediate impact of the November 20th terrorist attack is to be found inside hotel reservation books, says Sidi Keita, National Deputy Director of the Malian Office for Tourism and Hospitality.
We haven't lost hope. We know that right now there have been a lot of hotel booking cancellations and that a lot of public manifestations have been canceled. But we hope that very soon we'll see a return of peace and of foreign tourists.
Last June, a peace deal signed between Tuareg separatists and the Malian government raised hope of finally seeing the end of the tunnel after 3 years of crisis for the West African nation, but its implementation has proven challenging. The country remains also plagued with various jihadist groups committing acts of violence across the country. Two claim to be behind the recent attacks in Bamako. As for foreign tourists, they deserted Mali a long time ago, says arts and craft maker Modibo Nemaga, whose shop is located in a once popular tourist market.
Before, we had about 80 customers per week. Nowadays, we spend a month without seeing any white tourist.
This latest attack, the second one of the year in Bamako, threatens to drive the few remaining foreign investors farther away from the country as well. Moussa Ismaila Touré directs an agency in charge of promoting Mali to investors and says he's optimistic that this attack will not affect investments.
2014 was particularly slow. We had only a total of $65 million in investment intentions, but 2015 will be better, as we already are close to $160 million. That means there is a recovery. Maybe these latest events will slow us down a bit, but we hope it won't last.
In terms of economic growth, Mali is set to slow to 4.9% in 2015, according to the IMF, due to a weakened manufacturing output. Emily Eob for VOA News in Bamako.
Now, we asked our followers on Facebook how has terrorism changed their life? Well, Clementine Boutgigliotti from the Netherlands says, terrorism brings fear, death, sadness, and hopelessness. Everyone deserves respect regardless of country, ethnicity, or religion. Terrorist attacks anywhere on anyone are attacks on people. Using fear to intimidate is not the answer. From Nigeria, Adino Arinze Celestine says, terrorism reminds me of what the rule of the Antichrist will look like, because I view all those people perpetrating these terrorist acts as messengers and soldiers of the Antichrist. Now, thank you very much for your responses and keep them coming. Go to Facebook. The address is Africa54 and tell me how terrorism has affected your life, or send me a tweet at VOA Vincent Makori. Also, don't forget to check out our headlines and the latest developments 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Somalia's Foreign Affairs Minister on political stability and the fight against extremism. Stay with us.
I am Sheka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today, we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
Welcome back. Somalia is grappling with a huge task of nation building as it deals with terrorist attacks by the terrorist group Al-Shabaab. I recently sat down with Abdusalim Hadliya Omar, Somalia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, and asked him about his country's security situation and how the preparations are coming along for a national election in 2016.
We made major progress. We made major progress 2015 since the new Prime Minister and the new government was put in place. It has many different components, and some of those components are completed and other components are underway, and some are a little bit fussy. The components that has been complete is Election Commission is in place, the Constitutional Reform Commission is in place, the Boundaries Commission is in place, the states that was to make up the federal Somali state. So what's left? What's left is the functioning. How do you bring it all that together? And that in itself is underway. There is a committee in the parliament who is working on that. So we are moving in the right direction, and the pot is cooking.
Mm-hmm. And of course, for the country to really move forward, security is key. We've been seeing some unpleasant activities by Al-Shabaab. They have attacked places even as recent as a few weeks. How is the situation on the ground? To what degree have you really pushed these guys out of especially key areas?
With the help of our brothers and sisters of AMISOM and the partners around the world, we have militarily defeated Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is not a military menace. Al-Shabaab is a terrorist menace that looks for soft targets, civilian soft targets, both public and private. If you look at the history of Shabaab the last 1 year, they have attacked hotels. Hotels is very difficult entities to protect. Well, hotel is open for people to go in and out. It shows a level of desperation. It shows that they are still around. So they're inflicting heavy losses, and they are hitting it hard, innocent civilians who cannot protect of themselves. So that's an indication as to Shabaab's strength. And if I may say, I'm not quite sure, and you let me know if you know where we can get the answer. A young man or a young woman wakes up in the morning, puts a suicide belt, and goes to town and says, I'm going to kill myself and kill everybody I can. They have just done it in Paris, and they can do it anywhere they want to. That's the type of global war that's being waged. It's not a war only waged in Somalia. It's a war that's being waged around the globe, and we need to look at it as a global problem.
Are you getting the kind of help that you need as a government in order to fight this global threat?
We have partners, and we have brothers and sisters from the region who gave us their young men and women to die for us, and you can't give anything more than that. But right now, the level of this of the support should come at the level of sharing intelligence, having similar strategies, talking and looking at migration. And by far, the percentage of suicide bombers in Somalia came from Somalis who returned from diaspora. So there is an issue there, and there are other diasporas who are blowing themselves in Iraq and in Syria and in Paris and in Tunisia and Libya. So I cannot tell you there is a full-fledged cooperation around the world of how to fight these men, but we have partners that we are working. We are the epicenter of this, and we will fight.
Somalia's Foreign Affairs Minister. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, Adele's new record smashes a record. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Here's something you don't hear every day or ever. Angelina Jolie Pitt told Australia's Daily Telegraph that she loves being menopausal and isn't pining for her youth in any way. Jolie Pitt has been very vocal about her health choices, penning two New York Times op-eds on the topic. She first explained her decision to have a preventative double mastectomy back in 2013. Her second detailed her choice to remove her ovaries and fallopian tubes in March of this year after a cancer scare. Symptoms of menopause can include sleeplessness, hot flashes, and mood swings. Well, next up, humanoid robots that can gauge your mood were among the highlights of the World Robots exhibition in Beijing. Attracting special attention was the lifelike female android created by Osaka University, which stole the spotlight at the expo, with visitors crowding around to take photographs and talk to her. China has overtaken Japan as the world's biggest buyer of robots. This is the first time China hosted a robot expo. Well, and finally, it's official. Adele is #1. The singer's new album, 25, has sold more than 2.3 million copies in the United States alone during its first 3 days on the market, a stunning number for a music industry that has seen sales steadily fall in the digital era. Nielsen Music said that Adele has broken the one-week record for album sales set by NSYNC in 2000 with 2.4 million for No Strings Attached. The first track, Hello, has already sold 2.5 million copies in the 4 weeks it has been on the market, and that is what is trending today. Now, in the Tanzanian archipelago of Zanzibar, roles are changing. A society where for years only men took the lead in everything is easing up and becoming more inclusive, and all for the better. How this is being achieved is the focus of this special report by the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD.
Things have changed on Zanzibar Island off the coast of Tanzania. Not that long ago, you would never have seen a woman leading a meeting or teaching men how to farm. You wouldn't have seen a woman paying for her children's education or making decisions in the home. Although most farmers here are women, until recently none of them would have been earning their own income.
In the past, we used to depend on the man for everything. Farm work, domestic needs, food for the children, clothing, everything.
The man had to do everything. The woman was not involved at all. The situation is different now. We're helping each other to get food and income to run our lives.
With 11 children to support, Hassan and Tatu used to struggle. Farming as they'd done for generations, their rice paddies produced low yields. But then Tatu had the chance to learn how to farm. Along with more than 22,000 other farmers on the island, she joined a farmer field school and was trained in better farming techniques. There are now about 1,200 farmer field schools here, which have been established by the government with support from the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development. Each one focuses on a specific crop or livestock. Since joining the rice farmer field school, Tatu's yield has almost quadrupled, and her role in the family has changed.
Before the project, all the decisions were made by my husband. But after joining, whatever decisions we make, I am involved.
Tatu's new role in her family is not just due to her success as a farmer. Part of the Farmer Field School curriculum is focused on gender equality, and the farmers learn about the rights and roles of women in the family and community.
Yeah, I think it's important to promote gender equality or women empowerment, because women are the one who are responsible with the family. Men, sometimes they have 2, 3 wives, and sometimes they neglect one family. And some of the women are widows. So this helps women to be in front line and to upgrade their family and their children and to better their life.
In fact, the farmer field schools have specifically targeted women, and they now make up almost 2/3 of the students. 8 years ago, Zayana Ali Saeed was one of them. A widow with 7 children, she was dependent on her extended family to survive. Before attending the school, her 7 chickens produced so few eggs, she couldn't afford to feed her family. Now she has 200 chickens, and the eggs they produce are paying for her children to go to university.
As a mother, I'm very happy to see I'm helping my children in their education, because after the death of my husband, I didn't know how I would care for my family.
Now Zayana is not only caring for her family, but she's become a teacher herself. She has been trained to facilitate her own farmer field school, giving other farmers the knowledge and skills to lift themselves out of poverty. Like Zayana, Tatu has also gone beyond farming. She is now a leader in her community since being elected as the secretary of her farmer field school group.
Before, I felt shy speaking in front of people, but after attending the training and the way the trainers handled us, now, even if all of you are men, if I want to talk about something, I do it without any fear.
It is true. Women were very shy. Now a woman talks like a speaker in parliament, with the least of worries.
They may not be the speaker in parliament yet, but many of the female graduates of the farmer field schools are now leaders in district farmers forums, have positions in local government, and are activists for gender rights. And back in their homes, these women are teaching their daughters that they are capable of achieving anything they set their mind to.
That's a report from iFund. Well, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings, Today Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That's Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On
VOA.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent.